Hello guys, this is Harkerdeep. So according to payscale.com, in 2020, women made 81 cents when a man earned $1 for the same job with the same qualification, with the same everything. The difference with the salary and the paycheck, everything was only because of the gender. And that is a huge problem. So today, because of that, the topic gender wage pay gap matters to me a lot because whenever I will in the future go get a job, no matter where I get the job, no matter how much education I have, how much qualification, how many degrees I have, I will always face the gender wage gap because that is in every single job, no matter how smart you are, how much experience you have. But I know that might be different for some jobs, but for most part, there is a difference with the pay. Even though we know the Equal Pay Act was signed in 1963, but we know that the closing rate of that act is very, very slow. Women are still getting paid like thousands less for literally a job that a man is doing same, and they're getting less paid just for that. So if you don't already know what gender wage gap is, gender wage gap is a measure of what women are paid relatively to men. It is commonly calculated by dividing the women's wages by the men's wages, and the ratio is often expressed in either percentage or the dollar terms. In the report by Alice Geld and her peers. Now that you know what gender wage gap is, now I will tell you how bad it is. Still to this day. In 2015, men's median earnings were more than 51,000, when in comparison, women's median earning was more than only 40,000. So that is a big difference. And that article is by Department for Professional Employees. Now, that was the only difference in the comparison between the men's salary and the women's salary. Now, imagine the minorities, like the minority women. I'll tell you, African American women only earned 67% of what white men earned. And when it comes to Hispanic women, they only earned 62% of what white men earned. The job is the same, everything is same. Just like look at how big the difference is. In 2014, the progress was really bad. We can compare the female post-secondary teachers earned about 19% less than equivalent men. Female physicians and surgeons earned 20% less than their male counterparts. A census data from 1950 to 2000 showed that when number of the women increased in certain occupation, the value and the pay of that job decreased. Even if we leave out or we don't count the work experience or the education or the skills, the race, geography, everything. That is simply because of the gender. And by the way, all this information is from Department for Professional Employees. It's all there. If you don't know what uncontrolled gender pay gap or controlled gender pay gap is, the under-controlled gender pay gap usually measures median salary for just men and women, just in general. But for controlled gender pay gap, it's where the job qualifications are same, the job is same, everything is same, and they just compare the salary of the man and the woman. For uncontrolled gender pay gap, women earn 81 cents when every dollar earned by a man, But for a controlled gender pay gap, it's 98 cents for every $1 earned by a man. So you can tell how the difference is, and more jobs are really fall under the uncontrolled gender pay gap, and you can just tell how the difference between the two numbers are. And all this information about uncontrolled gender pay gap and controlled is by the article by PayScale, and the article's name is The State of Gender Pay Gap for 2020. If you look at the article by PayScale.com, it also talks about how women of color are affected more than just white women, women of color, and I'm talking about all women of color, they earn 25% less than what men earn when the data is uncontrolled. The article by PayScale.com also shows Asian women earned 95 cents when every time a white man earned $1. And for comparison, white women only made 81 cents when a man made $1. The job were uncontrolled, but it still tells you a difference. I know we shouldn't be looking at, and we also shouldn't be looking at the difference, the comparison between Asian women and white women, because it is not about the difference. It is about one of the biggest reasons of this gender pay gap is women are more likely to take breaks during their career, because it can depend on anything. It could be because they're pregnant, or they have to take care of the baby, or anything. And because of that as a reason, they think they should get jobs that are flexible with giving them breaks during their career. And because of that makes a lot of a difference. It changes a lot of time where women have to just stay home and take care of the kids. Now that we've talked about what is gender wage gap, and how bad it is, and how it affects people of color more, and just everything. Now let's talk about the solutions. Now let's talk about what we can do and how can we change it. Now I'm going to tell you how we can fix this gender wage gap. These are some of the steps you can do, we all can do, and we can request our bosses or the government to help us with the closing of gender wage gap. The article I'm going to be giving you information from is from CNBC Make It, and the article name is 8 Steps Economists Say That Could Help Us with the Gender Wage Gap, and it's by Abigail Hess. One of the things you can do is share your salaries, share your check. So every time, if you know you and your coworkers are doing the same job, work at the same place, and you guys have the same qualities, same qualifications, you should go talk to that coworker and share your salary information, kind of compare every time. So if you think that you did more than that person, you can go talk to the HR. And if you guys both think that there is something wrong with this check, you guys should go and to the HR, to your boss, and so you guys can tell your boss that there is something wrong with him. That way, you will bring awareness that, oh, we are paying attention to our jobs. We are paying attention to what we are getting. And I think that is a really good and a big step. Another option and another step we can take is dividing labor at home. We should be able to take some of our work, obviously depending on the job, we should be able to take some of our work at home, because, okay, so imagine if there is a single mother who has to stay with her kids, whose kids are little, and she kind of has to stay at home to take care of them. And obviously, if you think that her kids should go to daycare or have a nanny, obviously you gotta understand that some people can't afford that. Some people can literally not have, or some people just don't trust anybody else with their kids. So with looking at all that, we should be able to take some of our homework or work at home. So that way, because that way the work will get done, and we will also be able to take our kids. Another thing we can do that can help us get rid of this gender wage gap is we should have a stronger social insurance, meaning every time somebody gets a family leave or a vacation leave, some of the companies do not pay those workers, whoever get a leave, or just sometimes people have to take care of their kids and they have to take the day off. Some people don't get that money for that absent. And I think we should get that money and not just as a day off, because it's not like they didn't want to. They could have if they would have if they could have. So I don't think that should go off that day, or just a certain a week or a day should just be looked at as a normal free day, because obviously if they could have, they would have. A lot of people don't know their laws. A lot of people think that it is illegal to share your salary or your check information or anything, your whatever, salary information. And a lot of people don't know that you can share it. So if you didn't know, you can now. And with all these with all these steps and all these helpful tips, we should ask the government and request the government to allow these steps to have all these companies do, with the knowing your laws, meaning that if or not you can share your information with your coworkers, and with the stronger social insurance, with all that, if somebody takes a family leave or a leave just for an emergency, they should get paid for that, because it is not like they couldn't. They would have if they could have. And another thing that I discussed is dividing labor at home, meaning we should tell the government that the companies should allow their employees, to take some of the work, some of the labor at home, because that just helps people in many ways. So again, we should all request the government to make companies do these things, make these as laws, that mandatory laws. That will help a lot of people, and that is something that every single person can do. We can probably make petitions. We can probably go to any court and ask for that law to be made. And next time you get a check, next time you get paid, make sure you discuss it with your coworkers, and hopefully everything is right. And you make sure you tell your boss or the HR if there's anything wrong with it. And at the end, obviously, this gender wage gap is obviously very serious, and it affects women so much every single day around the world, every day. And with all the solutions that I discussed in here, and with all the steps we can take, everybody, even you, can help us put an end to this.